Okay, so but here's another switching gears. Already, Tom, you said you didn't see the movie, so you're going to be disqualified from this question. But Chris and I firmly believe that Batman Under the Red Hood is pound for pound, no hyperbole, pound for pound, the best Batman movie, better than all of them.
By far.
It was comic book accurate. It was great. It had all the cool things that you need out of a Batman story. It wasn't an origin story. You could just dive in. Everyone knows who Batman is. Everyone knows who Dick Grayson is. And then you have this other Robin that if you were a comic book fan, you know about. But if you were a new fan, you got this guy that you could research after you saw this cool movie. On top of the fact that you had, a Red Hood on video games and stuff like that. But the movie was just top to bottom fantastic. So our question to you, where would you rank Batman Under the Red Hood amongst all the pantheon of Batman movies? Alex?
Wait, just animated, right?
No, everything.
Everything?
No, we're saying Under the Red Hood is number one. We're saying it's number one. Okay. No Christian Bale, no Michael Keaton, no Adam West with the crossovers from the 60s. So we're saying
man.
Yes, none of that. None of that. We're saying Under the Red Hood is numero uno.
I think it's probably the best adaptation off a comic book.
Okay.
For real. I remember watching it going, holy crap, this is so true to the original material that I really enjoyed it that way. Because I watched some of the other ones. Like Year One was pretty close, but
yeah, right.
Hush, we're not going to talk about.
right.
Killing Joke.
Oh. Yeah, and so I think it's probably the best adaptation or close to the original content.
Okay, so you're creating a category. You're saying it's the best adaptation. We'll agree with that. We'll 100% agree. All right, Doug.
I mean, and it was maybe it's a different perspective because since we worked on it, you have a certain attachment to it, and when you see it reproduced as close to what you worked on, it's a cool compliment to have, and maybe there's a bigger impact for us on some of the cinematic stuff because it's stuff that we're not exposed to. It's fresh to us. It's something that we don't deal with day in and day out.
That makes sense.
Doug, where do you rank this? I'm glad you saw. What would you rank it? I know you saw a ton of Batman movies.
What I should have done is I should have taken a refresher and watched it again. So I'll probably have to defer to your guys.
We can watch it right after this. Let's go.
HBO Max.
I do remember.
Let's do a live viewing party.
My memory of it is that the Amazo scene, and it doesn't Dick Grayson take the two batarangs or the Grayson version of him and
in the ears.
Yeah, in the ears. No, it came right from the comic. That was pretty cool to me. I was going, wow, they just did it. That was exactly what we did. So I remember enjoying it. That's what I remember the most of. I mean, I might rank it below, sorry guys, man, my favorite Batman movie is Lego Batman.
Okay.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Oh,
okay.
It's in my top 5 too. So.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
That's a fantastic movie. But I really, I was really pleased how it turned out. I remember that very specifically. I haven't watched it for quite many years. Now you guys got me interested.
Okay, I gotta say,
yeah, this. I mean it does rank below, Lego Batman. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay,
that's a great choice, though. Honestly, Lego Batman is up there for me too.
I am not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
Look, I appreciate it. I can't say I agree.
Where would you rank it? Where would you rank it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to get through.
It's 12. 14.
I'd have to get through Dark Knight.
Okay.
Nolan's Dark Knight. I mean, God, after that, last year's The Batman was bananas amazing. Tim Burton's Batman has got a special place in my heart.
It does for us too.
What's fun about seeing that as a parent? So I saw that in theaters when it came out because I'm old, when I got to watch it with my son when he's about 10 years old, it's actually a perfect Batman movie for a 10-year-old still. And it still holds up in lots of ways. I mean, it does. It's now kind of cartoonish by other standards, but man. And then I don't know. Chris Nolan's Batman Begins is bananas great.
Yeah. Batman Begins.
I don't know.
I think Batman Begins You mentioned the Tim Burton, and it does stand the test of time because it still feels like a Tim Burton movie. So it doesn't matter, So you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, that's Tim Burton's Batman, and it works if you just look at it from that standpoint. But then under the red hood, man, like that's where you're able to see Batman flex. I mean, being able to where he has the cow cam, where he was able to recall footage from his cow and look at the fight between him and Jason from the POV of his cow. Man, that was awesome. There was so much stuff that we've never seen live action before that we were able to pull off. Plus, you had the fact that you didn't have to like introduce people to the origin.
Judd wrote that very, very well. I think he got those characters, and it was as a fan of Batman from being a kid, that was kind of very cool to read and go, oh, that's awesome. That he's kind of picking little things out like that and dropping him into the story.
We're taking the gloves off and saying number one.
All right, I have to give props to everybody who worked on it. It's an animated movie. There's like 100 people, including Brendan Benetti, who directed it. Bruce Timm at the top of the pyramid there is our executive producer. It is a team effort, and it came together really, really well.
Did you pitch it?
And I was like, yeah. Well, here.
Oh, yeah, you did.
It's a fun story. So, Dark Knight had just come out, and big, gonzo hit. And I had heard some rumblings from in DC Animation that they were looking to do another Batman animated movie, and they were looking to do something a little bit like tougher and grittier because they were just on the heels of Dark Knight. And I said, oh, screw it, I'll go pitch them Under the Red Hood. And I pitched it to my buddy Gregory Novak, who was at DC at the time, and he dug it, and he took me in to pitch to Bruce Timm and the gang. And the way I told it was, as it is in the movie, that we start out with the death of Jason Todd. That Batman's I told him exactly as it wound up being in the script. Batman we're in someplace like Sarajevo, someplace just some war-torn hellscape. It's winter, it's dark, it's night, and Batman is racing on his motorcycle to some location, and we're cutting back and forth with Ra's al Ghul. I mean, I even had that in there. And then, and he arrives too late, it blows up, and Jason's dead. And then we cut to the opening credits. And then I pitched it a little while later. So Bruce Timm tells me later, I finish it, and they bought it in the room. He's like, we'll do it. Let's do it. It's great. Let's do it. And then Bruce told me, he's like, I have to be honest with you, I was going to say no. It's like, what? He said, I had every intention of walking into this room. I was going to tell you no. It's just like, how do we possibly get to this movie without doing Death in the Family? We have to do all of Jason Todd's death.
See,
this
there
whole
it is,
thing
right
there. And then he's in the Mideast and his mother and all the stuff. And
you don't have to do that.
He said, you do it in the teaser. It's like, all we have to do is him dying. That's it. Like after that, you could have stopped. I said, oh, okay, no, we'll do the movie now. No, I get it. We'll do it that way. He said, that first 60 seconds that you were talking, that sold me, and the rest, I was just listening, and I was done. We were fine. So that was a blast.
Oh, wow.
And then I got to write it, and the thing was, I wrote, I don't know, it was a year and a half, 2 years of comics that I got to take just the good parts. So it wasn't like this enormous challenge, because I just literally took just the coolest parts that I thought were in the comic that were going to make, a 3-arc narrative, and 1, 2, 3, we're starting here, we're ending here. And beyond that, it's like, I'm going to put Nightwing in there. It's like, great, put Nightwing in there. It's like, and it's like, instead of can we start with Amaza? It's like, let's do, no one even has to know who he is. That's the fun part. It's sometimes you get to just use characters. It doesn't matter. We don't need a whole bunch of backstory. And I did just the fun parts, and it came together, and the animators were sensational. The designers were great. They stuck very close to Doug's designs, which was cool. And it was just a murderer's row of amazing voice talent who, it's not quite a 90-minute movie. So if everybody if everyone put in like a half day's work, I'd be surprised. I mean, that's how voiceover works. You know, I'm sure they came in, banged it out, and everyone was great. It was just great. You know, Jensen Ackles, Neil Patrick Harris as Nightwing. Oh, it's just, you know, Bruce Greenwood, Batman. You know, when they told me who they got, like, holy crap.
You're proving our case for us.
Exactly.
You're proving our case for us.
So, Doug, we've asked you this question before, but how big time do you feel having not one, but 2 movies based off your work?
Do I have 2?
You got The Mask.
Got The Mask.
Oh,
Under the Red Hood.
yes. Well, then there's Superman versus the Elite.
Oh yeah, that too. I forgot about it. Yep.
Extra big time.
3.
I don't know if there's anything else. At least I got a credit in Black Adam. So
Oh shoot,
That's cool.
out of one of the 150 special thanks that was in there.
Out of curiosity, guys. Out of curiosity, I'm always curious about your experience and like how like fans perceive you and what you're known for. You guys been a part of tons of pivotal moments in comics. I mean, Judd, he was on MTV The Real World, so he could be known for MTV The Real World. I mean, he's an author and et cetera, et cetera. But based on your experience with fans, and we're going to start this question with you, Alex, what work are you best known for, you think, according to your experience with fans?
Well, Hush it's the easy answer. It's the longest lasting job that I've been with, and I think people always bring Hush to me to sign, to talk about, and so definitely that. There's been other things that have stood out, but the one that really stands out the most is Hush.
Tom, what about you? Would it be under the hood?
I'd say it's probably that and the Green Lantern stuff, the Blackest Night stuff.
Oh yes,
Yes.
You know, because that was such an epic, you know, storyline. So, you know, having done so much work during that period, I get associated with that naturally. So yeah, those 2, I'd say.
Judd, out of curiosity, do people still remember you for the MTV, or do they know you for the comic books, or is it the work you're doing with Hilo? Like, what's that dynamic like?
I managed to work a couple of different demographics and quadrants. You know, it depends who you ask. There's the old people and the not so old people. For those playing at home who maybe you don't know. So yeah, I was back in 1994. I was on the 3rd season of The Real World, and a lot of 20-somethings and way down to teenagers know me from that. And it's the first season's now. I mean, our season's now running on Hulu, so we've noticed like a spike in people talking about it again. So that's been going on for. We're getting up on 29 years ago.
Wow.
I had an amazing experience. My roommate on the show was a young man named Pedro Zamora, who was a 22-year-old AIDS educator and activist who passed away not long after we finished filming. It was the first time anyone living with AIDS was on television in a real way, and changed the world immeasurably in ways that you can't even fathom. Another cast member on the show was a young woman named Pam Ling, who would become my girlfriend and later my wife. And
nice.
We are sitting in the basement of the house that we own here in San Francisco.
Nice.
And our 2 children are upstairs. So it's quite exciting. So many people know me from The Real World. And there's an entirely different group who know me from comic books. Everything from Batman to Green Arrow to Green Lantern to Outsiders, you name it. Which is a blast. There is a Venn diagram. Sometimes you get the Real World people who've also read comics, and I hear a lot from OC Gentlemen, where it's like here, read this. Like I don't want to read this. Like Judd from The Real World wrote this comic book. Like, shut up. Like, yeah, I know he did. So I got my girlfriend to read Red Hood. It's like, okay, cool. And then there's a whole new group of small children. So I'm coming up on about 9 years of doing Hilo. So some of the wee ones who start reading when they're 9 years old, they've aged out and they're older, but now there's a whole new group of kids. I have had the experience of everything from parents saying that So our children were reading Hilo, and we just had to tell them, like, he used to be on this TV show like almost 30 years ago. And they're like, yeah, we don't care.
Or what about you, Doug? Man, there's so many ways you can go with it. You're, been one of the longest tenured DC pencilers. There's a lot of things. What would you pick? Well, as far as fans coming to see you and asking for sign stuff like that.
It kind of comes and goes. Sometimes it's stuff I don't expect, but I'd say under the hood, one of them. The other is definitely Batman, the Man Who Laughs.
Yes.
I get that a lot. Some people are always curious about what's it like to work with Morrison, so it doesn't even matter. They just want to hear what's it like. But, fans, collectors, that is, they always have something that's important to them. I like when people bring up Action 775 because it was such a Joe Kelly wrote such a from the heart issue to try to make a statement regarding that there's still good heroes, and Superman is not, from the past. He's presently wonderful, but yeah, like you can't work on 4 years of Green Lantern without having somebody have a collection.
Exactly.
Hello, Green Lantern. I got to tell you this story. We saw Jeff Johns 3 times last year. Rare occasion.
Yeah.
This dude signed 150 books. So I have the whole Green Lantern run signed. Like, it's crazy. I love that man. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We need to break Doug's head. We need to break Doug's head.
Come on, he's been lifting weights to meet us.
Guys, over the past several years, Jason Todd and Harley Quinn have become DC's breakout characters, mainly due to the Injustice video game franchise and their TV shows. What's the business situation like for comic creators when their creations go beyond the page and onto the screen?
So Doug, start there. So how does that work? Do you guys get royalties or for video game stuff, or just the books?
They give you high
every
fives.
Every once in a while, the check shows up that I don't expect for something. Trust me, in the entertainment industry, lawyers are really good, and they're worth every penny because they're not just handing you money. On the other hand, DC has been, I think they have a tendency to feel, I don't know, maybe because of past indiscretions regarding creators, that they never want to make that mistake again. But, if ownership is very different than having worked on something, but if something does well, they share some aspect of it. That's happened many times.
So like none of the Injustice stuff, like, because all of you guys worked on Red Hood, so none of that stuff, right?
And I never saw royalties for Red Hood. I've never seen a single cent of royalties from Red Hood because at that time, colorists were not getting any royalties. I was fighting with DC.
Dude, that is
colorists.
Oh my gosh!
And so
I didn't even realize that.
So and in fact, for Hush, I never got any royalties until Paul Levitz left. So Paul Levitz is the main reason why colorists never got royalties.
Oh wow!
So once he left, Jim and Dan took over and they fixed that. Colorists got credit on the covers. Colorists started getting royalties. I eventually got DC to issue a contract to me saying that any new publications of Hush, whether it's new material or republishing old material, I would start getting royalties on that.
Okay,
wow,
yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
My mind is blown.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you imagine, like I said, I worked on Red Hood, I worked on Blackest Night, I worked on Flashpoint, I worked on Final Crisis, Ultimate Crisis, every freaking crisis I never saw a single penny from any of those.
Wow. Infinite Crisis covers. You did the Jim Lee covers, so you did the Jim Lee covers and Infinite Crisis too. Wow.
I did DC. I did 52. Imagine getting royalties for 52 issues worth of work.
Yeah.
I never got a single cent out of that, and I can thank Paul Levitz for that.
Wow.
Wow.
Damn.
Shame on you, Paul.
Shaded the Sultan of Shade. Damn.
I need a couple shirts that say that.
Right?
Right. All right. Let's talk about the
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Doug.
Man, how did they justify that?
They don't. They just. It was funny because I was talking to Dan DiDio while Paul was still in charge, and Dan's like, I've given Paul 2-3 different drafts of how to redistribute the royalty pool so colorists can be included, and apparently Paul turned every one of them down.
Boo.
Wow. And it was years of me pushing, and it took him stepping down for them to do the right thing.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
props to Dan and Jim for doing the right thing. But yeah.
So when colorists started getting credit on the covers, I do remember that period. That was when the royalties kicked in at the same time for you guys?
It took a few months after that, because it was a lot easier to say, all right, we're going to do cover, credit on the covers. And then after that, it was like, well, we need to figure out the royalty pool and redistribute and who gets what. And they actually ended up coming up with a really cool percentage breakdown for everybody.
My buddy Ed Brubaker talked about this not so long ago, I think very publicly, where he was discussing that, Winter Soldier exploded out into gargantuan amounts of money, and Ed talked about it'd be nice if, even though contractually they're not obligated to do anything, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world just to cut a small chip off that mountain of money that they make. So with that, Jason Todd was known as a legacy character. I didn't create Jason Todd, and that character is owned by DC Comics. I did create the Red Hood, which was a character that originally Joker, inhabited for a while. But I put all that stuff together and made soup, and so Jason Todd Red Hood, is my creation. But I don't have any contractual ownership of it. So Jason winds up in video games, he winds up in TV shows, and it's great. I go into this with my eyes open. I never had any expectation that anything else would happen at the end of the rainbow. There's no pot of gold for me with Jason Todd and Red Hood at the end of the rainbow. I did move on. I do agree with Ed that when these things blow up in such a way that we're talking about so much money being made on something that came out of his head and his heart, a little honorarium probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Jason Todd and Red Hood are nowhere near the ballpark of what happened with Bucky Barnes,
right,
and Winter Soldier. Not even
that
close.
Movie was amazing. Mm-hmm.
So, Bucky Winter Soldier is out there, doing a lot, and nothing coming their way. So, no, I don't see any of that, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it at this point.
Do you watch shows like Titans or things that involve Jason Todd, Red Hood? Like I
want to see what they did. I want to see what they did and how they did it. Sometimes I will watch it with great interest. Sometimes I want to just check it out. A little drive by. I will say this. It was I don't know, maybe about 10, 12 years ago. When Red Hood had been long over, and I was at one of my last Comic-Cons, which took a long break, and there's a lot of so it came to my table as a bunch of inarguably young people, kids 15, 16, 17 years old, who were wee and tiny when the book first came out, and they loved Jason. They were just and not, mostly girls. And there's this emo quality of Jason, which was not my thought by design, but it just seemed to tap into something with readers. So it makes me proud that all these years later that, he's still around and kicking, that it wasn't a stunt as Bob had worried about. It had some longevity, it had some legs, and I think part of it is just, I honestly barely take credit for the idea because Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee came up with it. I just happened to see that 100 miles of broken road that they decided not to do. Lucky me, it's well, I'm going to go do that.
I love that.
There's something operatic about him. There's something tragic about the character that I think still works, and I think part of it didn't take away from the tragedy of him dying in the first place, which was important to me. I still wanted this to be the worst thing that ever happened to Batman, but now we're going to make it even more terrible.
Love it.
I believe Batman thinks in his heart that his Jason died, and this thing that came back isn't him. And that's, I think, what kind of keeps him going. That this monstrosity that's come back is a warped version of what Jason was. That's what he tells himself. But at the same time, I think a part of him knows he's wrong. That this might have been who he was always supposed to be.
Right. It was. I find it funny that what got Jason killed, the part of Jason, his personality that everyone hated in the 80s, that's what let him get killed. That's why everyone loves him now. It's like when you say like emo, it's like, yeah, he was emo back then. We called him whiny. He was annoying and 1-900 number, kill him. We're going to switch gears real quick. We got to talk about this funny ass story. The tale of two wins, okay? Tom.
Does this involve me?
Yes, it involves you. I'm so glad that you're on this show. Can you share the inside joke between you and fellow artist Dustin Nguyen? You know?
I mean, for years, we would always get each other's comics to sign. You know, 99% of the time, and it's purely mistake. And they would just bring me some of his comics, and I usually just sign them just as a joke. We would sign each other's comics, but you know, there's a legitimate misprinting of me and Doug's credits on at least one or two of the Batman issues in a row.
Yes.
So, but Dustin did the interiors, but you know, they put me and Doug's name on the cover, so that was like a printing error.
I signed up. Like, it's hard to judge. You just got to do it. People don't understand.
Yeah, but I mean, I recognize which ones right away off the bat because I get asked about it so much. So, you know, I just say, well, you know, if you want me to sign it, I'll sign it. I'd probably do it for fun as a joke anyway, but I just want to let you know that this is a misprint and I didn't do any work in this.
Dustin is ruthless because he said the same story that you guys, the inside joke. Hey man, if someone gives me Tom's books, I'm gonna sign Tom's books and vice versa. Right? My dumb self, a few years back, I roll up with the Batman 635, the first appearance of Jason Todd as the Red Hood, and I thought that it was Dustin, not Tom, at the time. I didn't do my research. I wasn't doing DC fandom online like that. Shame on me, right?
Rookie maneuver.
So I ended up getting a bastard out of it, and I have a little, you know, Dustin Nguyen, right? It hurts. It hurts me. Now I call it Jason Snow because we call them bastards because we're big Game of Thrones fans, and the bastards go to the Night's Watch. They go to the wall, right? And so we had this book. So true story, right? Our 1 year anniversary. Doug joins us on IG Live.
Yes, he did.
For us a giveaway. We was giving away books. We was giving away mad books. And one of the books was this cursed Batman 635. Someone won it, right? But then didn't win it, didn't accept it.
Yeah,
so
never
we still
picked it up.
They never picked it up. So we still have it. So no one wants it. So we still have it. I guess that's a lesson learned for me for doing that rookie mistake. So it's my fault, guys. It's my fault. All right. Final question for everyone. This is our final question. We like to always have the final question be about our guests and what they're currently working on or things they would like to promote. So Doug, let's start with you. Last time you joined us, we had an in-depth look at the first issue of Swamp Thing, Green Hell with Jeff Lemire and David Barron. And David he did some cool things where he opened up the Photoshop sessions and stripped down your work and was able to break down the process you guys were able to really talk about and do like game tape of issue 1. So where are things with that now?
believe it or not much has changed. I'm finishing up the last issue. The last issue is 48 pages.
Oh, sheesh.
It's been a rough year, the last year, and some health issues and some various things. Every time I buckled down to get that book done, something would happen. And so I'm actually circling the drain with the help of a couple of friends. One of them, which I have to mention in conjunction with the current, this the under the hood stuff, is my good friend Sean Mall.
All right.
Was my assistant back then, and honestly, he was a big part of getting that storyline done. Back then, he was, a lot of what you see is Sean's stuff. He's a great artist, great assistant, great friend, and was a big part of what we're talking about.
Shout out to Sean, man. He's a friend of the show. He's a friend of the show too.
Sean remembers more about what we were doing back then than I do. He could, if he was here, he could give you the total. He would give you the inside look, because I don't remember it. I just moved to the next thing, But he's got a memory like a steel trap, and he could probably point out a page, and he's probably give us the time, the day, what we were eating for lunch when he was doing that. And he communicated largely with the editors for a lot of the things that I did. When we were working on, however, it was Bob Schreck who was the editor, and I can't remember who. I'd have to open the pages to see who was the assistant. Maybe did Tom or Alex, do you guys remember who the assistant editor on that book was?
Yeah, Michael Wright.
Michael Wright. And Bob Schreck himself, at the time, Schreck had a lot of health issues. So he spent a lot of time away from the editorial desk, which, left Michael with probably way too much to do. So I literally, during the entire time, only spoke to the editors a few times on the whole experience, getting that book done. So anyway, I'll go back to what you would ask. I'm finishing up Green Hell is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I got something lined up, but I can't mention it yet. So
as always,
more DC stuff.
Blackest Night Part 2.
I never asked that question anymore because no one's going to answer it. What are you working on next? Can't say. So I just say, hey, what would you like to promote now?
Yeah.
All right. Tom, well, what's going on in your world these days? You mentioned that you got 1 foot in the comics. So I see on your IG you do photography, man. You're like a Renaissance man.
Well, the photography thing is just mostly on the side for fun. I've always been interested in it and been doing it for a while, and I've been fortunate enough to do some paid gigs with some of the commercial photography and the portraiture that I do. But so nowadays I do a lot of work for certain television shows, a lot of storyboarding, concept art, and then even on-screen stuff. So in the television world, I'm most known for working on Big Brother for CBS.
Oh, okay.
They're going to enter their 25th season, and then every season they do a comic book episode, and I'll draw some of the cast members that they'll flash up as superheroes. But I'll also do stuff that you'll find on the walls in the back or in some of the competitions. I don't know if you guys watch the show, but they'll do competitions where they'll involve posters and graphics, and I'll do that too. At the moment, I'm kind of under an NDA. I think I can say that I'm doing some really cool stuff for Fox Studios / TMZ. And I think they're filming stuff right now, so that will be announced very soon.
Nice.
I can't wait to show you guys. It's really cool stuff. In the comic book world, just started working on the sequel to my creator-owned project with Keith Champagne, who's a fellow DC writer.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And so our graphic novel, it's called The Switch. It's just this female supervillain that wants to turn her life around, is basically what the story is about. That came out a few years ago. We just actually launched the Kickstarter for the remastered version with extra pages and a sneak preview of the sequel just tonight, literally right before it came on.
Yeah, very cool.
So working on that, and then at the same time, I'm working on a graphic novel that's trying to finish this year. It's not superhero, but it's a historical black graphic novel about some of the first settlers in the small town called Hastings. Nice. And the writer is actually a descendant of one of the slaves and stuff from back in the 1800s. Wow. So that's we're working on that, and we're trying to get that published proper, well, as a comic book, but also as educational material as well. And I always think it's always good to get a new thread of knowledge about history, about how we came to be as a people, as a country and stuff. And I think working with him he's a filmmaker, so he's no stranger to creative writing. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. Oh, by the way, I want to show you guys this really quick.
Okay.
Yes, we love share and tell. Let's go.
Digging around on my parents' house, helping them clean up and move some stuff. And look what I found from back in the day. I found.
Oh my God! Oh my Lord!
New condition.
Dang.
Oh my Lord!
And I remember back when I got comps every month, this is like a comic book fan's dream, is you get comps from DC Comics every month. Not only do we get 25 copies of whatever issue we worked on, but we got every issue of every comic they published that month, every month. But it got to the point where it was such a burden, finding space, that I became known in the neighborhood as Mr. Comic Book Guy to the kids. So then every couple weeks, I'd get a knock on my door and they'd say, "Mister, do you have any comics?" And I said, "Oh, sure, just take all this stuff." I would give away all key issues, just everything. Just didn't care. I just needed space in my house.
Yeah.
Then Red Hood blew up.
Yeah.
And I was kicking myself because, this issue, slab and graded, is going for hundreds of dollars, and on eBay. I found out recently. So then I was kicking myself. I'm man, that's a small fortune I gave away. And then I was at my parents' house, just digging through stuff, and I find these just nestled under boxes, and they're in mint condition too. I'm I can't believe I have some left over. So I just
bam, Alex. Whenever I go to a comic book shop, I count how many books you're not working on. Okay, you're not working on. You're like James Brown, man. You're the hardest working man in comics. Okay, what projects do you want the Stats fam to know about?
So I'm actually kind of just turned in the last issue of Han Solo and Chewbacca for the Star Wars group. What a joy to work on that was. My two favorite characters, my favorite spaceship. And so that's finishing off. We also just finished our last issue. Brian Hitch and I just did our last issue of Venom.
Okay.
Did a 15-issue run on that. And then Brian's working on a new project that hasn't been announced yet, and it's a big deal for Marvel, and so we're kind of waiting for that to get announced. But that's coming up. And then I'm doing a fill-in in one of an Avengers issue. So I'm doing a lot of stuff for Marvel. I'm working on a title called Ancient Enemies. It's part of the Frank Miller Presents.
Oh, cool.
Line, and so Dan DiDio's writing it. Danilo Baruth is doing the art, and then I'm doing the colors on it. The second issue just got announced, and Frank drew 4 pages.
Okay. That
introduce one of his characters. That he's drawing a new character for his line. I got to color that as well with over Frank, and so a lot of cool stuff with the Frank Miller Presents line. And then I'm working on a graphic novel with Image. It's called Gods on Sunday, and it's being produced by the Astro City team. So Kurt's writing, Brent's doing the art, Alex is doing the cover, and I'm doing the colors. And
let's go.
Comic Craft is doing the lettering on it. And so it's the Astro City team. We're kind of keeping ourselves busy as we wait for the new Astro City to launch, hopefully in this year.
Wow, man, that's a lot.
Judd, is there anything you want the Stats fam to know about? Anything you're working on right now, high, low, or anything else? Floor is yours, my man.
For the kids at home. I'm still I do this. Some might know I do a series. It's called High Low. It's an all ages action adventure story. About 3 kids. One of them is named Hilo. It's basically a kid who flies around, shoots lasers out of his hands.
Nice.
What I can say about it for maybe most of this audience is that what I've been very, very pleased with is that a lot of moms and dads who are huge comic book fans got the series for their kids, was reading it with their kids, and go like, oh, you know what? I'm into this. Because I actually, even though it's marketed towards children, I don't actually make it for kids. It's an all ages title. It's kind of like Pixar movies.
Hell yeah.
It's got cheap jokes in there. There's a burp joke or 20 in there for sure. But it is an ongoing story as well. Every book ends in a cliffhanger. It is like, it's like a monthly that comes out every year, except this one's 200 pages. And I'm very proud of it. It does quite well. So I'm very lucky in that way. And I get to write and draw again. And it's just an absolute joy.
Where can we pick up Hilo?
You can pick up Hilo wherever books are sold. I was lucky enough to, hook up with this very small independent publisher called Random House. They're only the biggest publishers of books in the English language. That's an actual quote. So wherever books are sold. Next one, Hilo Book 9. Which is called The Last City on Earth, comes out February 28th.
Oh, wow.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It was an honor and a privilege to have you guys join us.
Wow.
I'm glad we was able to make it happen. As always, we'll love to see you guys again. We'll be hitting you up sometime soon. I'm glad you guys were able to do this with us today. Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit that like button. We are the Stats Bros. I'm Mike, speaking for Chris and the Red Hood crew. We are out. Peace.